The mist hung low over the Thames, thick as a shroud, carrying the metallic tang of blood and the acrid bite of smoke from distant fires. You hear them before you see them, the rhythmic tramp of iron-shod boots, the low rumble of war machines grinding over the earth. Then, through the haze, the silhouettes emerge, Roman legions, shields locked, advancing like a wall of unyielding steel. At the river's edge, British warriors stand defiant, their bodies painted in swirling blue, spears glinting in the weak dawn light. But, as the first arrows arc across the water, screams pierce the air, high, desperate cries that echo the chaos unfolding. Villages burn in the distance, their thatched roofs collapsing in flames. Captives are herded like cattle, chains clanking, faces streaked with dirt and tears. Whispers spread among the ranks. The emperor's guards, the elite Praetorians, have been given free rein. Thousands of noble women, daughters of chieftains, are said to have been dragged away, their cries swallowed by the fog. Rome's might crashes down, not just on warriors, but on the heart of a people. And as the battle rages, one question hangs unspoken. How far will this new emperor go to claim his glory? What you're about to hear involves reports of conquest's brutal realities, including violence against civilians and implications of sexual assault. These events are drawn from ancient accounts, but they're disturbing. We focus on the machinery of empire, not the suffering alone. If it's too much, step away. No judgment. For those who stay, let's uncover the system behind the shock. This wasn't mindless savagery. This was strategy. Claudius, the unlikely emperor, didn't invade Britain out of bloodlust. He needed a win, a spectacle to silence his doubters back in Rome. The empire in 43 AD was a sprawling beast, from the sun-baked sands of North Africa to the foggy fringes of Gaul. But Claudius, mocked for his limp and stammer, inherited a throne stained by his nephew Caligula's madness. To hold power, he had to prove himself a conqueror, echoing Augustus's glory. Britain, that misty isle of barbarians, offered the perfect prize, untamed, rich in tin and slaves, and a symbol of Rome's reach. The invasion wasn't just about land, it was about reshaping perceptions, turning a ridiculed scholar into a godlike victor. Yet, as legions crossed the sea, the cost mounted, not in Roman lives, but in the shattered world they left behind. Historians debate the scale of the horrors, but the echoes ripple through time, reminding us how empires are built on broken backs. What drove this man to unleash his forces? And why did the fall of a few tribal kings send shockwaves through the eternal city? Claudius wasn't born to rule. In the opulent halls of Rome's imperial family, he was the outlier, the one they whispered about behind closed doors. Born in 10 BC in Lugdunum, a Roman outpost in Gaul, Tiberius Claudius Drusus came into a world of power and poison. His father, the celebrated general Nero Claudius Drusus, died young, leaving him in the shadow of giants. His uncle Tiberius, future emperor, and his grandmother Livia, the iron-willed consort of Augustus. But, from infancy, Claudius bore marks that set him apart. A mysterious illness twisted his limbs, gave him a limp that made every step a struggle, and a stammer that turned words into weapons against him. Family members sneered. Augustus himself wondered if the boy was fit for public life. They kept him hidden, away from the forums and feasts, lest his awkwardness tarnish the Julian name. Yet, in that isolation, a mind sharpened. Claudius buried himself in books, devouring histories of Etruscans and Carthaginians, penning volumes in Greek that few would read. He learned from Livy, the great chronicler, absorbing tales of Rome's rise. Politics eluded him until fate twisted again. Under Tiberius, he lingered on the edges, a minor priest in obscure cults. Then came Caligula, his nephew, whose reign descended into terror. Claudius survived by playing the fool, drooling at banquets, feigning idiocy to avoid the blade. It worked. Caligula mocked him, but spared him, even naming him consul in 37 AD. But survival bred resentment. Claudius watched as the empire teetered, finances drained by extravagance. The Senate cowed. The turning point came in January 41st, AD. Caligula lay dead, stabbed by his own guards in a palace corridor. Chaos erupted. Senators dreamed of restoring the Republic. The Praetorians, the elite imperial bodyguard, had other plans. They found Claudius hiding behind a curtain, trembling but alive. In a stroke of irony, they hailed him emperor, not out of loyalty, but calculation. He was the last Julian male, a puppet they could control. Claudius, thrust onto the throne at 50, paid them handsomely, 15,000 sesterces each, a fortune. But he knew weakness invited daggers. To solidify his rule, he needed glory. Britain beckoned, a land Julius Caesar had touched but not tamed, its tribes fractious, its resources tempting. Exiled kings like Verica pleaded for Roman aid against rivals. Claudius saw opportunity: conquer the island, parade captives in Rome, and etch his name in stone. Preparations began in earnest. From Gaul's ports, ships gathered, transports for 40,000 men, 4 legions hardened by frontier wars. Aulus Plautius, a seasoned senator, led the force. Auxiliaries from Batavia, swimmers skilled in river assaults, bolstered the ranks. Claudius, no warrior, stayed behind initially, but his Praetorians drilled for the voyage. Whispers in Rome spoke of omens, storms delaying the fleet, soldiers muttering of Britain's druidic curses. Yet, the emperor pushed on. This wasn't just conquest, it was reinvention. By spring 43 AD, the sails dotted the channel, carrying Rome's ambition to foggy shores. But as the legions landed, the real test began, not of swords alone, but of an empire's hunger. The beach at Rutupii was a churn of sand and spray when the first Roman boots hit British soil. That spring, under a leaden sky, Claudius's legions disgorged from their transports, to Augusta, Nio Hispana, XIV Gemina, Dex et Valeria, Victrix, 20,000 heavy infantry, shields raised against the arrows whistling from the cliffs. The Britons, led by Togodumnus and Caratacus of the Catavellauni, didn't yield easily. These were no scattered tribes. Their Oppido hill forts, ringed by ditches, bristled with warriors. Claudius pushed inland, Batavian auxiliaries swimming the Medway to outflank defenders. The battle raged 2 days, swords clashing on shields, the river running red. A Roman general, Ianius Hosidius Gaeta, nearly fell captive but rallied his men, earning triumph's honors. Caratacus watched from the heights, a tall figure with braided hair and torque of gold, his warriors fierce in their war paint. He was no mere chieftain, heir to Cunobelinus, Shakespeare's Cymbeline. He ruled a confederation stretching from the Thames to the Humber. His people fought with chariots, darting like shadows, hurling javelins before wheeling away. But Roman discipline held. At the Medway's ford, legionaries locked testudo, turtle formation, and advanced. Pila thrusting through the gaps. Britons fell, their woad-smeared bodies crumpling. Caratacus retreated, but not before hundreds perished. Historians debate the toll. Estimates range from a few thousand warriors to entire villages razed in reprisal. This was the system: break resistance, then offer terms. The Dobuni, a western tribe, switched sides early, their envoys bowing before Claudius, trading autonomy for peace. As word spread, fear gripped the land. Tribal elders gathered in sacred groves, druids chanting omens of doom. Women and children fled to the woods, clutching what they could. The Romans pressed on, fording the Thames where London would later rise. Togodumnus died in the clash, wounds or despair, accounts vary. Caratacus escaped west, vowing revenge. Plautius halted, sending for Claudius. The emperor arrived with reinforcements, Praetorian cohorts, elite guards in gleaming armor, and, rumor whispered, war elephants. Though some say siege towers mistaken in the fog, no great battle followed. 11 kings surrendered, their torques laid at Roman feet. Camulodunum fell without siege, its timber halls echoing with Latin commands. In the aftermath, the human cost mounted, captives chained in lines, destined for Rome's markets, tribal nobles stripped of status, their daughters, symbols of lineage, faced uncertain fates. Ancient chroniclers imply the worst. Spoils of war included the defilement of the vanquished, a tool to shatter spirits. But details blur. Suetonius notes no bloodshed in the final submission. Yet whispers persisted in Rome, tales of Praetorians, unleashed to claim rewards. Shocking the Senate. Was it thousands, as some exaggerated? Historians debate, but estimates hover low, perhaps symbolic acts to cow resistance. This wasn't about individuals, it was empire's machine. Conquer, assimilate, extract. Claudius, ever the scholar, saw it as progress, planting a colony at Camulodunum for veterans. But for Caratacus, watching from exile, it was erasure. He had months left before his stand. What he didn't know, his defiance would alarm Rome more than any surrender. From the victor's chariot in Rome, the world looked different. Claudius rode through cheering crowds, naval crown on his brow symbolizing the tamed ocean. But back in Britain, the machine ground on. Plautius governed now, extending control westward. Vespasian, future emperor, led to Augusta through Dorset's hills, subduing tribes like the Duratriges. Their hill forts fell one by one, maiden castles' defenders slaughtered, bodies piled in pits. Archaeology tells the tale. Skeletons with ballista bolts embedded, hasty burials amid charred ramparts. No grand battles here, but systematic clearance, villages emptied, fields claimed for Roman villas. Shift to a witness's eyes, a merchant from Gaul, trading wine for tin, caught in the tide. He saw the legions march, auxiliaries looting granaries. Whole clans vanished, he later wrote, his papyrus scarred by haste. The system incentivized, soldiers rewarded with land, officers with promotions, Praetorians, Claudius's personal guard, enforced order in Camulodunum, their presence a reminder of imperial might. Rumors swirled, of noble women paraded, their virtue bartered for alliances. But breathe here, amid the ash, a quiet irony. A British potter, spared in the sack, etched Roman designs on his wares, blending worlds, beauty in the breakage, a flower blooming from scorched earth. Escalation came north. The Brigantes, under Queen Cardimandua, allied with Rome, but fractious elements rebelled. Plautius crushed them. Borders pushed to the Humber. In Wales, the Silures harried supply lines, their guerrilla tactics bleeding the invaders. Caratacus rallied here, shifting from open war to ambush, hit wagons, vanish into mists. One survivor, a legionary veteran, recalled the terror. They came like ghosts, spears from fog. Numbers mounted, not the thousands of legend, but steady attrition. Rome responded with forts, timber walls rising overnight, watchtowers scanning horizons. The machine adapted, roads slicing the land, linking garrisons. Yet, a breather, in a rare lull, soldiers traded with locals, iron tools for furs, a fragile peace amid the push. By 47 AD, the Fosse Way marked the frontier, a diagonal scar from Exeter to Lincoln. But unrest simmered. The Iceni, east of Camulodunum, chafed under tribute. Their king, Prasutagus, navigated carefully. But his daughters, young, royal, faced Roman eyes. No direct violations recorded, but the system loomed. Client kings kept power, yet their heirs were vulnerable. This angle showed the machinery's gears: economic squeeze, cultural erosion, taxes drained granaries, Latin schools supplanted Druid lore. One brief moment, a captured chieftain's wife, veiled in defiance, spat at her guards before vanishing into slavery. Her fate, lost to time, but emblematic. The escalation wasn't just swords, it was the slow grind of subjugation, turning free folk into subjects. The climax built like a storm over Welsh hills. By 51 AD, Caratacus, harried for years, made his stand. Ordovices and Siluras rallied, choosing ground wisely: steep slopes, river barriers. Roman Governor Ostorius Scapula advanced, legions fording under arrow hail. Time slowed, shields splintered, men screamed as boulders rolled down. Caratacus, atop the ridge, urged his warriors, "Fight for your homes!" But Rome's catapults thundered, breaking lines. The act itself, restrained in accounts, was slaughter. Warriors fell, families scattered. Caratacus fled north to the Brigantes, but Queen Cardamondua, Rome's ally, betrayed him, chains for favor. The crack came swift, paraded in Rome. Caratacus stood unbowed. "Why covet our huts when you have palaces?" he asked Claudius. The emperor moved, spared him, life in exile. But the system faltered. Scapula died exhausted, revolts flickering. Claudius's overreach? Perhaps. Yet, the invasion's peak sealed Britain's fate. Colonies planted, roads webbing the land, transition to aftermath. The machine endured, but seeds of resistance sprouted. What followed wasn't glory's afterglow, but the gritty work of empire. Claudius returned to Rome, deified as conqueror, but Britain simmered. Camulodunum became Colonia, Claudia Victricensis, veterans' haven, temple to the emperor rising on tribal grounds. Power shifted. Native kings like Togodumnus ruled as clients, their palaces Romanized. Long-term, the island yielded tin, grain, slaves, fueling Rome's coffers. But irony twisted. Documents meant to celebrate, like Claudius's triumphal arch, crumbled, while buried horrors surfaced later. Survivors rebuilt cautiously. Caratacus lived out days in Rome, a curiosity. His family, pardoned, faded. The community fractured, tribes absorbed, druids hunted. Yet, within a decade, Boudica's revolt would erupt, her flogging and daughter's violation igniting fury. Claudius's system, rigid, sowed those seeds. Modern eyes pierced the veil in the 20th century. At Colchester, archaeologists unearthed Camulodunum's bones, temple foundations, chariot circus traces. Philip Crummy, digging in the 1970s, found Boudica's burn layer, charred timbers, melted glass from the 60 AD sack, coins stamped with Claudius's face, mosaics of victory, proved the colony's haste. In 2004, at Stanway Quarry, elite burials emerged, gaming boards, surgical tools, hinting at blended cultures. A surgeon's kit, perhaps from a Roman healer aiding natives, spoke of uneasy fusion. These finds humanized the machine. A child's toy sword, buried amid ruins, evoked lost innocence. Tangible proof. Dendrochronology dated timbers to 43 AD, confirming invasion prep. What matters now? This teaches power's price. Conquest glamour masks erasure. Parallels abound. Empires overreach. Cultures clash. Claudius's Britain echoes into today's borders, reminding us resistance endures. Echo the mist-shrouded Thames, where screams once rose, silence fell, but the vanquished didn't vanish. Their bloodlines weave through Britain's fabric, stories etched in earth. And now, they're here with you, because you listened. If this tale gripped you, subscribe for more dives into history's shadows. History survives when we remember.